Greetings, and welcome to A Year of Movies, a Planet Geek production. For this project, we are using the Ivan Walters reference book of 365 films to watch on the day they happened. Each day, we watch a movie associated with the date we are watching it on. And as it is the 1st of July, we are going to be watching Superman from 1978, directed by Richard Donner and starring Marlon Brando. So this is a cornerstone of early movie watching for me. As I mentioned a couple of episodes when I was talking about a previous Christopher Reeve movie, this is the one that started it all. My admiration and my love for this actor of such great stature and whatnot. Also throwing in the Canada Day Canadianness of having a Margot Kidder as the lead female Lois Lane character. It's just a spectacular thing. And like I already mentioned, not only does this movie star Marlon Brando, but it also stars Gene Hackman, Christopher Reeve, Ned Beatty, Jackie Cooper, Glenn Ford, Margot Kidder, and Valerie Perrine. Before the destruction of the planet Krypton, scientist Jor-El, played by Marlon Brando, sends his infant son Kal-El on a spaceship to Earth. Raised by kindly farmers Jonathan and Martha Kent, played by Glenn Ford and Phyllis Thaxter, young Clark, Christopher Reeves, discovers the source of his superhuman powers and moves to Metropolis to fight evil. As Superman, he battles a villainous Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, while as a novice reporter Clark Kent, he attempts to woo co-worker Lois Lane, played by Margot Kidder. So right out of the bat, when this movie came out, it was the first of its kind. There had been attempts to do superhero movies and whatnot, but they were usually on the lower level of the industry and all that. This is probably the first attempt at making a big spring spectacular version of a beloved comic book series. And what Richard Donner did with this story and the way that he directed is just so fabulous. This movie deals with not only state-of-the-art special effects and the use of miniatures and live full-size sets. We get some fantastic animations. We have some wonderful acting, and that's, when you watch this movie, it is, and like I had mentioned in the previous movie with Christopher Reeve, that he is such a fabulously gifted comedic actor. His persona of Clark Kent being the stumbling guy all over the place. He is in the background of a lot of scenes where he is just mugging it up big time. But when you look at the brighter scope of this, everyone is doing the exact same thing. Everyone is doing a serious job of telling the story, but there's always a comedic twist underneath the surface with everyone. Like even Jackie Cooper as Harry White does some mugging in this movie that is just fabulous, trying to basically steer this ship that is the Daily Planet newspaper and all of these rambunctious people around him as he tries to, again, figure out how to get the next edition of the paper out. Gene Hackman and Ned Beatty are such a fabulous, almost like an Abbott and Costello sort of routine characters between each other, and they just do a spectacular job. Of course, Ned Beatty playing Otis, the fumbling buffoon, to Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor, but it's just, again, Gene Hackman's reaction to seeing Ned Beatty doing some sort of comedic physical stick and the facial expressions that Gene Hackman plays are just so spot on fabulous. Now, this movie is definitely close to my heart as it's an early movie that I can remember experiencing when I started to realize that I really enjoyed movies. I found out through a little bit of research that there is a high probability that we actually saw this movie first time at the drive-in, and because of the way movies were that time, we're pretty sure it was a double bill with Star Wars, which had been released the year prior. And of course, back in the day, Star Wars itself had been out in theaters for almost a full 2-year cycle before it finally got pulled from cinemas. But experiencing Superman and then watching Star Wars just made for fantastic evening. And I did later on see it in the theater at least once or twice more, because I think I went to see it with like other family members that were interested in seeing it. I'm like, I'll go see that with you. And this movie is in constant play. This version, this and Superman 2, I watch constantly throughout my life. And it actually has been probably about maybe 2 years since I had watched this again. And when I sat down on this, it is the easiest 2.5 hours to watch for this subject matter. It just like swam by that. Like before I knew it, I was like at the closing credits, and I'm like, wow, and it wasn't one of those I'll do something else while it's playing in the background because it's a movie I've seen several times before. No, I couldn't keep my eyes off the screen. That's how much I enjoy watching this movie. And I'd be remiss to leave out yet another spectacular score by John Williams. Just again, like nail on head, perfect. So the infamous scene where Lois Lane invites Superman to be interviewed, where she actually dons his name of calling him Superman, actually happens on July 1st, 1978. And that's about an hour and 18 minutes into this 2 hour and 24-minute movie. And when it came to the Academy Awards for that particular season, it ended up getting nominations for Best Editing, Best Original Score, and Best Sound. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this particular episode and look off into the morrow to see what we're going to be watching for the 2nd of July, and that is going to be Independence Day from 1996. So until next time, go see a movie.